Hello, what's up everybody? My name is Michelle if you're new here. Today I thought it'd be nice to do a little sit down chat. It's been a while since I've done one of these. Today I want to talk about a topic that I've been thinking about kind of for a while now, and that is feeling sorry for yourself and kind of how easy it is to sort of fall into the cycle of just constantly being sad. But yeah, we'll get into it. Growing up, I'd say I've always had a very positive outlook on life. Obviously nowadays I try to balance that with reason, but at the core of it I would say that I'm pretty optimistic. So I've always really despised people who are always very negative, very pessimistic, and I could not stand being around people who always viewed themselves as a victim. I felt like there was never any accountability there. It would bring my mood down, and it was just really frustrating because although I understand that life is not positive all the time, it just felt like they didn't want to get better for themselves, and no matter how much I tried to encourage them to get help, it was like they wanted to stay in this cycle of sadness. And for the longest time I could not understand why people who were stuck in this cycle couldn't just do the thing that they needed to do to get help and become better. And I couldn't understand why someone would ever be okay with keeping themselves in this prolonged period of sadness. Until one day, it happened to me. I hate to say that it took it happening to me to really understand why it was so easy to get sucked into this cycle of just negativity, but that is the truth. The thing is, it really does creep up on you slowly, and you never really realize how the mindsets that you have and the things that you do are contributing to you being stuck in the cycle, until one day you are so deep in it that you don't even really know how to reverse the damage. Because eventually, in some weird, messed up way, you almost get comfortable being in this sad state. And it can be really uncomfortable sometimes to admit how big of a role you play in your own suffering, especially when that suffering is beneficial to you in some ways. And I say benefit very loosely because it doesn't actually benefit you. It can feel like it's benefiting you, but in reality it is doing a lot more harm than good. When you are in this negative state and you make the world out to be something that is always happening at you and coming for you, it's so easy to make excuses for yourself because you can play it off as, oh, I'm just being easy on myself because I'm trying to heal from whatever it is that the world's throwing at me right now. It is totally okay to be easy on yourself when you are going through a tough time, but when you're so used to being easy on yourself during that tough time and you prolong the tough time so that you can constantly be easy on yourself and not get anything done and just make excuses to lack discipline and lack any sort of drive, this can be very dangerous to not only you but the people around you. I'm speaking on this not to preach, but as someone who has done this themselves. When I was going through some of my worst times, it was so easy to say that I was in this long healing process, and because I was in that healing process, I shouldn't take on hard tasks and I shouldn't push myself to do anything uncomfortable because I'm still healing. Newsflash for myself, I'm gonna be healing my whole life. If I treat healing as a period where it's like a free-for-all and I can just do whatever I want, I'm never gonna get anywhere in life. And if you use healing as an excuse to not do things, you're not gonna get anything done. And I did not get anything done during that time. If you let yourself mope around, you can extend that period for as long as you freaking want. And I'm in no way saying that you shouldn't take time to grieve or to go through the emotions that you need to go through during a certain period of time. But I think it's important to set timelines on these things, because if you're anything like me and you don't pull the plug on this grieving period, it can go on forever. And eventually you're just stuck in the cycle where you're always sad and you're always grieving. It can really get in the way of you just moving on to the next thing. It's easy to have pressure on you relieved when you are stuck in this cycle of just feeling sorry for yourself, because it's really easy to fall back on the excuse of, I'm really going through something right now, so don't come at me, don't have these expectations on me, don't put this pressure on me, don't make me do something that is gonna affect my healing process. And so we make these excuses for ourselves, and eventually we get comfortable with how easy life can be when there's not this responsibility to get your shit together. And one way or another, it does catch up to you, and you just realize how much time you waste on just being comfortable and not pushing yourself to the level that you know you need to be at. The next way that this suffering can benefit you is more from the perspective of a creator. I talk about this with my creative friends a lot, and that is the phenomenon of only being inspired when something negative happens to you. I'm not proud to admit this, but I am the most inspired when I'm going through some sort of heartbreak, some period of uncertainty, or just any time where I'm feeling down and those feelings should not be prolonged. It is when I've created the things that I'm most proud of. And I think as creators there's always this inclination to make something out of a bad experience because because it sort of gives it some sort of like purpose. And this can be really dangerous because if you're an artist who doesn't have discipline, it can be really tempting to wait until this inspiration hits you. And when this inspiration comes from a negative place, you're more inclined to seek out opportunities for you to be in this negative space and sort of want to prolong your heartbreaks and bad times in order to keep this inspiration going. It's just like this weird cycle of just wanting to sort of be sad in order to create something that you're proud of. This is something that I'm extremely guilty of. I don't think this just applies to art. I feel like instead of art, you can switch that out for like some sort of life transformation.
My freaking audio window crashed. I don't even know what I was talking about anymore. Now I'm just angry. This is the problem with not having a script. Give me a second. Oh, I think I was saying like this doesn't just go for art. It can be just like a life transformation or change or something in general that leads you to be at a better place. Now, though I think it's really good to always be able to look for positives in negative situations, other times it's okay to just have a shitty thing happen to you and just accept the fact that it's a shitty thing that's happening to you, not something that happened and needs to turn into this great piece of work or this great transformation. It's such an internet brain rot perspective to have. Of instead of just going through a shitty experience, you have to go through a shitty experience and like get some sort of gain out of it. And there can be such a big appeal to create something out of sadness because a lot of times the things that you can create out of these situations are a lot more touching to you, a lot more emotional and just meaningful. Personally, for me, this is where the cycle of feeling sorry for myself really comes out the most, because it can be really hard to put out stuff that you don't deeply resonate with. And unfortunately, the creations that I resonated the most with were the ones where my emotions were very intense and very vulnerable, and that always usually comes out of like pain and heartbreak, which is very unfortunate. Another reason why I felt very addicted to this cycle of feeling sorry for myself was because it gave me a lot of inspiration for my art. I remember when I would be in periods of sadness and I was like, okay, I better start making something fast or this inspiration's gonna like fade, which is so messed up. At the end of it, I wanted some sort of reasoning good enough to justify why it happened in order for me to get better. I don't know if that makes sense. I think when you're going through a period of sadness, there's always this inclination to justify it somehow, to sort of prove that this wasn't all for nothing. Because it can be really sad to admit that most of the shitty things that happen to you in life just happen because you're just unlucky, not because you're chosen, and that you were meant to go through this in order to become this thing that is so much better, or to create this thing that's so great. In order to justify the hurt, we want to come out on the other side of it with some great thing that we can show people that we made despite all the challenges that were thrown at us. Life is so unfair sometimes, and it can be really sad to accept the fact that life is unfair to us and not to somebody else. And to sort of ease ourselves from that pain, we look for ways that this sadness or that this trauma or whatever that it is that we're going through makes us very special, when in reality sometimes life just freaking sucks. Life sucks, and sometimes we heal from it and we don't really need anything to show for it other than the fact that we got through it, and that sometimes really is enough. And that was something that was really hard for me to come to terms with, because I felt like if I couldn't make something out of my sadness, that I didn't deserve to sort of not be sad anymore. And I felt like the only way that I deserved to be happy again was by going through this life-changing transformation, or by making this beautiful piece of work, and then I would be able to move on and heal. And it seems really messed up because that's not how life works at all. But in some weird messed up way, I almost like found comfort in that mindset, because at the end of it, I knew that this suffering would inspire me to make something great. And that is not always the case. And eventually you almost want to like keep the sadness looming until you sort of find a way to justify your pain. And that's how the cycle sort of feeds itself. Making something great out of a negative experience experience is never something that's always bad, but making great things only from negative experiences is where things get very toxic, and I've definitely fallen into that many times. Being stuck in a cycle of feeling sorry for myself was never something that I ever expected would happen to me, and it's definitely not something that I'm proud to have fallen into, but it definitely is like a wake-up call and a very eye-opening experience as to how easy it is to sort of get sucked into it. When bad things happen, it can be really easy to want to stay there, but when you're like not actively working to better yourself and get yourself out of this rut, you can be in it forever. I remember when I was going through some of the worst times in my life, and so badly I wanted someone to come in and help me and sort of be the beacon of light that I needed. But no matter how hard they would try, and no matter how grateful I was for them, no matter how much I appreciated them for trying to help me, at the end of the day, if I didn't want to actively choose to get better, there was no way that I was going to stop this cycle. I had to make the choices to get better. As much as I could ask for help, I can't really put that pressure on anyone or anything else to sort of get me out of that rut. And it's sad to realize because I've been on both sides of it, where I have this person who I know has so much potential to be better, but they just can't for themselves no matter how hard I try. And I've also been on the side where I want someone to help me so badly, and I want them to be the one that pulls me out of this, but no matter how hard they try, it really has to be me that wants it more than they do. It will never solve all of my problems unless I'm also trying. I think deep down I always know that, even though during those times I want somebody to be there to help me, it really is ultimately me who decides if I do or not. And you sort of reach a point where you really have to accept the responsibilities for yourself. It's comfortable to be stuck until one day it's not, and you just realize that you have to want to be better for yourself, and that's the only thing that can really help you. My memory is about to run out and my battery's about to die, so I think it's the perfect time for me to end this. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's talk. If you have any topics that you'd like me to touch on, please let me know. I don't know everything, but I'll try to talk about it in the best ways I can with the knowledge that I have and the experiences that I've had. I don't have that many, but I'll try. Thank you for watching if you got this far. Hope you have a great day, and I will see you next time.